And in week 1, we said if your clout is all about you, it won't live beyond you. So if your popularity, the people you know, your privilege, all those things, if those things are just about you, then when you die, those things die with you. And so week 2, so if you know, you know, right? Pastor Trey shared a story about this. So what did we actually talk about in week 2? So not everyone has clout, but everyone has influence. You may not know a ton of important people. You may not be the most popular person, but you still have influence. Week 3 last week, we said that God will not bless your idols. So if your clout has become all about you, you actually it's really easy to start worshiping those things and your life becoming about those things, and that becomes an idol, and God will not bless your idol. And so when I think about clout, I think about my brother-in-law. His name is Heath. Everybody say Heath. So here's what I think about Heath. Do we have any Bachelor fans in the room? All right, like 10. Sweet, that's awesome. So here's the deal. If you guys are into The Bachelor, you probably heard the name Hannah Ann, right? Okay, so Hannah Ann won The Bachelor, kind of, I guess nobody really won, right? Like Pete kind of lost big time. So nobody really won the Bachelor, but she technically won, I guess. And so they didn't end up together, blah, blah, blah. So she goes on The Bachelor and blows up. So she's got all these followers now, and she oh my gosh, she's got so much clout. Well, my brother-in-law Heath went to high school with her, and they go on a school trip back in the day, and he actually has a with her, and he made this TikTok, and I want to show you guys this TikTok really quick. He made it a few months ago.
When you're spending every day on your own, and here it goes, I'm just a kid, and a life.
So that's Heath. Let's throw that picture of, so he posted on his Instagram, and Heath is a great dude. He's actually super influential, but he's not 734 likes every single picture kind of guy, okay? So he posts this picture, she comments on it, it gets 98 likes. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have very many posts that get 98 likes and all these comments. And so Heath posts this, and then somebody makes a TikTok about his TikTok. He starts to get this clout. And it's weird. I'm like, dude, are you serious right now? He's got all these people sharing this picture and oh, look at this guy. And here's how I know that Heath did it for clout, okay? Some of you may be like, hey man, he might just be shooting a shot. He may just be trying to, hey, remember back in the day, strike up an old flame. But here's how I know. One, he is wearing a Sesame Street shirt that says, kicking it old school. That's my first sign. He would have never posted that. That's just embarrassing. That's not for clout. 2, he's married. So I know that he wasn't trying to shoot a shot and slide into her DMs. He was doing it for the clout. And honestly, he got a little bit of clout out of it. People were sharing the TikToks. So I made a TikTok about his TikTok, and it was oh my gosh, he has a little bit of clout now. And so he did it all for clout. And I think we can all kind of think about a person that we're okay, we know somebody like that. We know that guy, right? That we all know someone that would do anything for clout. They would do anything to get popular. They would say anything to literally anyone who would listen to them, right? They would do anything so that important people would notice them. They would do anything for clout. And there's a term for people like this. You might know it. It's called Clout Chaser. Clout Chaser. These are people who benefit personally off piggybacking of the success and the popularity of someone else, right? These are people like Heath. They're listen, he would have never posted that picture in a normal circumstance, but Hannah Ann gets some clout. He posts a picture. He gets some clout, right? That's what a clout chaser is. They piggyback off other people's success. They use their privilege to get more privilege. Clout chasers are kind of the worst. And before you're hey, bro, that's your boy. You need to chill. Don't bash him. The reason I say hold up, because I think that to some degree, we are all chasing some kind of clout. I think we're all chasing some kind of clout. If we think about clout as popularity, privilege, all those things, we all want to be popular with some people. We want people to like us, right? We want to be liked. We want people to notice us. We want to feel like we matter. We want to feel significant in the world. And so I think, in some way, we are all chasing some kind of clout. And tonight we're actually going to look at two guys in the Bible who were chasing clout as well. So you're not alone, all right? We're not alone in this. We're actually going to look at the story from the Bible. So if you have your Bibles, open up to Matthew chapter 20. We're going to be in Matthew 20, verse 20. So up to this point, where we're at in the story, Jesus is getting ready to kind of wrap up his ministry on earth. And spoiler alert, for those of you that don't know, that means that he's about to die on a cross, okay? So his life on earth is getting ready to end. And at this point, like, people kind of know who Jesus is. Like, he's kind of taken off a little bit. People are traveling from all around just to hear him teach, and they're traveling to see the miracles that he's doing, and he's gaining followers like crazy, and the disciples have been following him around for 3 years, and so it's not just Jesus that's becoming popular, like the disciples are too, and they're starting to gain a little bit of clout. And for those of you that know about clout chasers are never satisfied with the clout they have. They're trying to get more. And so here's a conversation with two of the disciples that they have with Jesus chasing some clout. So in Matthew chapter 20, verse 20 says this: Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came up to Jesus with her sons. So her sons were James and John, okay? So James and John mom, she walks up to Jesus with her sons, and kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said to her, "What do you want?" She said to him, "Say that these two sons of mine are to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left in your kingdom." Okay, so pause. One, this is what happens. So James and John's mom goes up to Jesus with them, and she's like, "Hey, I want my sons to sit on either side of you when they get to heaven." That's really embarrassing, okay? So like imagine your mom, okay? You imagine your mom doing something like that. Like she comes up and say it's like your basketball coach, okay? Let's put you guys in this scenario. Your mom comes up with you to your basketball coach, and she's like, "Hey, listen, here's the deal, coach. My son, little Timmy, okay? He's been working really, really hard, okay? He's 5'2", I get that, not very good on defense, but he's been working really hard. At home, he sets out little orange cones in the driveway, and he does the dribbling drills just like Kyrie Irving, and he practices his Euro step in the hallway, and he gets me every time. He just goes right around me, and I swear his vertical's increasing. He's jumping up and hitting the top of the door frame, and he's getting higher every single time. He's working really hard. I think he should be a starter. I think he should start on the team." Like, can you imagine in your mind in that moment? You're like, "I'm gonna have to kill my mother." You're like, oh, that is like so embarrassing. You can't bounce back from that, right? You got to quit the team. You got to like move schools. Like you can't bounce back from an embarrassing moment like that. And that's essentially what James and John's mom did in this moment. That's super embarrassing. I love the question that Jesus asked though. He's like, "Okay, what do you want? What do you really want here?" And essentially what she was asking for is she wanted her sons to have status in the kingdom, okay? She wanted her sons to have status when they get to heaven, and I would say this, like, be careful what you ask for, because gaining status in the kingdom looks a little bit different, and Jesus understood that more than anyone, and so he says this in verse 22. It says, Jesus answered, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am to drink?" They said to him, "We are able." Verse 23, he said to them, "You will drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father." And when the 10 heard it, the 10 other disciples, they were indignant. They were angry at the two brothers. So, essentially what Jesus is referring to here whenever he says, "Can you drink the cup that I'm to drink of?" What he's referring to is his death on the cross, okay? So he's essentially saying, listen, if you want to drink the cup that I'm going to drink from, if you want to sit in that seat, you have to be willing to suffer and die. You have to share in the sufferings of Christ, and you have to die to yourself. You have to die to your wants, your desires, your dreams. You have to die. And for the disciples, that literally meant that they were killed for their faith. And so he's kind of telling them, hey, you don't know really what you're asking for. If you want status in the kingdom, this is kind of the cost of kingdom clout. And I love the other disciples' response. They were angry, but they weren't angry because they weren't like keeping their friends accountable, right? Like, you shouldn't have said that. That was very prideful. They were angry because they were like, James and John, we're not trying to let you guys have a leg up on us in heaven, all right? You're not getting some advantage. You're not getting some special status or some more clout than us when we get to heaven. So they were angry. And so Jesus, he knows everything. He kind of sees this playing out. And he's like, all right, so James and John are prideful. The other disciples, they're jealous, and so he's like, all right, let's have a little family meeting here, and this is what he says. Verse 25. We're going to leave this verse on for just a second. It says, but Jesus called them to him and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Stay here for just 1 second. So he's like, okay, so the Gentiles, this group of people, they have rulers and they have great ones that are kind of over them, right? When he's talking about rulers and great ones, essentially these are just people with influence. These are the influencers of their culture. These are the people that had a little bit of power and authority, right? And he says, listen, you know that they lord it over them and they exercise authority. So really all that means is they make it all about them. They're saying, look at me, I have all this authority, I have position, I have more power than you, I'm more important than you. And then this is what he says in 26. He says, it shall not be so among you. Shall not be so among you. Instead, he says, but whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be your slave. Next verse. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Like, Jesus is like, listen, all these other people, they use their authority and their position, essentially their clout for themselves. It's not going to be like that with you. If you want to be great, go serve someone. If you want to win, if you want to be first in the kingdom, you need to be a slave. You need to serve other people. You need to focus on others. And for us, we hear this and we're like, man, that sounds so backwards. Because of the culture we've grown up in. Culture that says this, it says that clout is king. In our world, clout is king. Our world says if you want to be successful, you better have a lot of people that know you, better have a lot of followers, you better make a lot of money, right? And that's how the world starts to define success. Essentially, they say, hey, clout is king, so you better have clout if you want to make a difference, if you want to be successful at all. You better have clout. Jesus says something different, right? Jesus says, no. He kind of flips it. He's like, if you want to be great, you better go serve somebody. You better focus on other people. And that's so interesting to me because the world says, hey, this is what success is. Jesus says something different. I love what Paul says because the reality is, guys, if we are going to serve clout like the world says that we should, we can't serve King Jesus. And this is how Paul says it. He says, am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. So if you want to be a servant of Christ, if you want to follow Jesus, if you want to be a Christian, you need to stop living for the approval of man. That's what Paul says. Don't live for the approval of man because kingdom clout means doing the right things, even if it means that you lose followers, friends, relationships with your family. It means being committed to follow Jesus, even if those things happen. So I think there's a lot of you in the room that would say, yeah, like I want to do that. I want to follow Jesus. I want to be a servant of Christ. And so I want to share 3 things with you guys tonight that will hopefully help you understand more about clout so that you can be a better servant of Christ. So number 1, influence is about creating change. Clout is about creating comparison. So influence is about inspiring other people to make changes in their life for the good. Clout is about creating comparison. Look at this person. Look at that. Look at that guy. Influence creates change, real change. positive change in the world. Clout creates comparison. Let me tell you, clout or comparison will keep you from being an influence. Comparison will keep you from being an influence. Here's what we do a lot of times. It's really dumb, but we do it. We like scrolling through Instagram, right? And we start to compare our worst moments to someone else's highlight reel. Because that's what people post on Instagram, right? Like they post the highlights. They post the good things of their life. And so we're sitting there and we're feeling sorry for ourselves and we're like, man, my life, it just sucks right now. And then we look at somebody else on Instagram. We compare our worst moments to their highlight reel and we're like, man, why can't I have that life? Why can't I be like them? Why can't I look like that? If I had the amount of followers that they had, then I could make a difference. Then I could actually mean something. Then I could be significant. And we let comparison keep us from actually being able to influence. And I think a lot of times we spend time, like a lot of time, trying to like get people's attention, and they're not paying attention, right? Like we're trying to seek approval from people that don't even approve of themselves. Yikes. Like we're like, man, I need this person to affirm me, and they don't even approve of themselves. And that's the person we're comparing ourselves to. No wonder, like our world's in the shape it's in. No wonder. So here's the deal. Like if you're going to compare yourself to someone, compare yourself to Jesus. Okay? If you're going to compare yourself to someone, compare yourself to Jesus. And here's why. When we compare ourselves to other people, we kind of do it one of two ways. We either compare ourselves to someone who is like way better than us in our minds. Okay, we're like, oh man, they're so much better than me. And then it creates insecurity, okay, and envy. We're jealous of that person. Or we compare ourselves to this person over here that we're like, oh, well, at least we're better than them. At least our life doesn't look like that. At least we're not them. And then that builds up pride. And it's like, oh my gosh, like either way, that kind of comparison kills your influence. It kills it. Comparison will kill your influence. So what we need to do, compare ourselves to Jesus. Because when we do that, the result is not pride, it's not envy, it's not any of those things. The result is humility. Because in that moment, we realize like, oh my gosh, Jesus is amazing and I'm nothing. And Jesus is like, dude, finally, now I can use you. You have come to this realization and you have to me. It's like, compare yourself to Jesus. And I think a good general rule of thumb for thinking about comparison, especially with high school students, is never compare yourself to something that's not going to exist in the kingdom. Never compare yourself to something that's not going to exist in heaven. For example, popularity. Dude, popularity, privilege, the important people that know you, platform, all those things, they don't matter in the kingdom. They don't matter. They're not going to matter one day when you're in heaven, you're standing before God. Like those things aren't going to matter. Never compare yourself to something that's not going to exist in the kingdom. You know what does exist in the kingdom? Humility, goodness, like all of the good things, faithfulness, those things exist in the kingdom, and those are the things that actually inspire real change in people. Those are the things that are going to allow you to have an influence. Influence is about creating change. Clout is about creating comparison. So number 2, clout is given, not earned. Clout is given, not earned. So any clout that you have, all right, any influence that you have is not because of anything you did. It was a gift from God. Think about it. Popularity. Well, God created you with a personality that attracts people. Your popularity came from God. Platform. God put you in the position you're in and gave you the voice that you have among people. Like that is from God as well. Privilege. God made it to where you were born into this family during this time, in this place, and gave you the talents that you have. The people that you know God placed you in their path. Like everything that we have, any influence, any clout that we have is from God. It's a gift. He didn't give you this clout so that you could build yourself up. He gave you the clout so that you could help build the kingdom. He doesn't want you to use it to promote yourself. He wants you to influence other people toward him. And when we start viewing our clout as a gift from God, like we can start using it for God. When we view our clout as a gift from God, we can start using those things, the popularity, all of those people that we know, we can start using those things to influence people for God. Clout is not earned, it's given. Number 3, clout does not equal greatness. Did you hear me? Clout does not equal greatness. Our world says otherwise. Our world says if you want to be great, you better be known by a bunch of people. You better have a lot of followers. You better make a lot of money. You better be successful, according to the American dream. If you want to be great, you better do those things. But Jesus says, no. He defines greatness as you better be a servant. Be a servant. Care about other people besides yourself. I love that. See, here's the deal, guys. How many of you guys know, like, everybody famous isn't great? Everybody famous isn't great. You think about all these people, they're celebrities, people know who they are, zero talent, just none. They don't have any kind of talent. You're like, how did they get to where that doesn't even make sense. Everybody famous isn't great. They may be well known, people may know their name, but they haven't done anything. But the opposite's true too. Everybody great isn't famous. Everybody great isn't famous. There are people that have done some great things and nobody knows their name. Like I believe there are people in this room, there are people watching online that are going to graduate high school and do some great things. And people may not, they may not hear about it. You may not become famous, but that's okay. Because clout does not equal greatness. Listen to me. Don't attach your significance to your clout. Don't attach significance to your clout. Because when you do that, you start to believe the wrong things. When you attach your significance to your clout, you start to believe that you are only significant if people see you at this party on Friday night. You start to believe that you are only significant if you have a basketball, baseball, football in your hand. Or if you have a cheerleading or a band uniform on, or if you're valedictorian with a 4.23 GPA. Those things are lies. High school, hear me out. The truth is, you are significant, okay? The truth is, you do have worth, you do matter, you are significant. You have worth. Not because you have clout, but because you were made in the image of God. You have significance. So don't attach that to your clout, because when you attach your significance to your clout, to what other people say about you, eventually they're going to change their mind. And when they do, you're going to feel alone and you're going to feel worthless. But when you attach your significance to what God says about you, man, he doesn't change his mind. He says that you are chosen, that you are righteous, that you are loved, that you are his. And so you always have worth. You always have purpose. Don't attach your significance to your clout. Here's my bottom line for tonight. It's this: don't focus on who sees you, focus on who they see. Don't focus on who sees you, focus on who they see. In other words, don't focus on how many people are looking at me, how many people are following me on social media, how many people are like in my friend group. Don't focus on those things. Focus on becoming the type of person that you want them to see. Focus on becoming like Jesus, on becoming a servant of Christ. Don't focus on who sees you, focus on who they see. And here's the deal. If you realize that, you're going to realize you have way more influence than you can ever imagine. You're going to realize that you don't have to chase clout because you're the kingdom. You don't have to chase clout. You have to spend your life striving to please other people that aren't even paying attention, that you're seeking the approval of people that don't even approve of themselves. You don't have to chase clout because you are the kingdom and you have all the clout, all the influence that you will ever need. You don't need more popularity. You don't need a bigger platform. You don't need more privilege. You don't need more important people to know you because you are known by God and He calls you His child. You don't have to chase clout. You're the kingdom. So let me ask you this question. It's my big question for tonight. Why do you want clout? Why do you want clout? Imagine this. Imagine that you had all the money that you ever wanted. You have all the followers. You have all the people that are there that want to hear what you have to say, that want to be around you. You have it all. You have all the clout in the world, all the influence in the world. What would you do with it? If all that changed tonight, you had all this money, what would you do with it? Because the answer to that helps you determine if the reason you want clout is for you or if it's for God. Is it so you can build yourself up? Or is it so you can build the kingdom? Why do you want clout? Do you think that you'll be significant when you have it? Do you think that you'll be satisfied? Do you think that you'll be great if you have clout? Here's the deal. There are a lot of people in this world who have all the clout that you could ever want, and they're still unsatisfied. There's people in the world who have all the clout you could ever desire, and they still feel like they don't matter. How many of you guys have ever heard of Tom Brady? Yeah, like everybody. This guy was a Brady fan, I guess. Yeah, so like everybody's heard of Tom Brady, right? Like that dude has all the clout in the world. He has the money. He's worth $180 million, okay? His net worth is $180 million. He has his own brand. He's in commercials. He has success. He has 6 Super Bowl rings. Are you kidding? 6 Super Bowl rings. He's got like all these MVP trophies. He's probably the best NFL quarterback of all time. It hurts me to say that, but probably is. 6 Super Bowl rings. He knows important people. He's married to a model. Like, guys are like, man, he's got everything. And it seems like he does. He did an interview one time, and I want to show you part of it. He did an interview with 60 Minutes, and this is what Tom Brady said.
Why do I have 3 Super Bowl rings and still think there's something greater out there for me? I mean, maybe a lot of people would say, hey man, this is what it is. I reached my goal, my dream, my life is me. I think, God, it's got to be more than this. I mean, this can't be what it's all cracked up to be. I mean, I've done it. I'm 27, and what else is there for me?
What's the answer?
I wish I knew. I mean, I think that's part of me trying to go out and experience other things, but I love playing football and I love being the quarterback for this team, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of other parts about me that I'm trying to find, and different ways of expression, being around. I know what ultimately makes me happy are family and friends, and positive relationships with great people, and I think I get more out of that than anything.
So, Tom Brady, he literally says it in the interview. He says, 27. At the time, he had 3 Super Bowl rings. He says, I'm 27. I've done it. Like, I've done it all. I've got 3 Super Bowl rings. I make all this money. And another part of the interview, he talks about his wife. He's like, I got an amazing wife. Like, she's beautiful, whatever. Like I've got all this stuff. And I still ask the question, is this it? Is this all there is? And he says, there's got to be more than that. And the saddest part of the interview is when the interviewer is like, well, what do you think that is? And he says, I wish I could tell you. Wish I could tell you. And it's like, man, this guy seems like he has it all. He's got all the clout, popularity, all of it. And he says, this is it? Really? And I'll tell you this. If you guys spend your entire life chasing clout, trying to increase a paycheck, trying to make yourself known and promote yourself to other people, you'll get to the end of your life and you'll ask the same question that Tom Brady did. You'll say, is this it? Really, this is it. My worst fear for you guys is that very thing. My worst fear for you is that you would strive and try to get the approval of people who don't approve of themselves. That you would do anything for clout, but nothing for the kingdom. My worst fear is that you get to the end of your life and look back and realize that you wasted it. Here's the thing. Tonight you have a choice, okay? You can say, I'm going to choose to be a servant of Christ. I'm going to choose to follow Jesus. And if you do that for the rest of your life, when you get into the kingdom, when you get to heaven, I can promise you 100% guarantee that you will not be walking around with Jesus and be looking around and thinking, man, is this it? Is this it? Is this all there is? That thought will not be anywhere close to your mind, because in that moment, you will be with King Jesus in his kingdom. Everything will be perfect. All those popularity won't matter. Privilege won't matter. Platform won't matter. The people who think you're important won't matter. And all that's going to matter is you're with Jesus. You'll have every single thing that you've ever wanted, that you've ever desired in your life in that moment. I can also promise you, if you live your entire life for clout, for yourself, you're going to get to a place that you think, is this all there is? The good news is, if you're a believer, if you follow Jesus, if you put your trust in him, you know that's not true. It's not all there is. There's something better for you. You have a hope. And the best news is that the kingdom is not some far off thing. It's not just the place of heaven. The kingdom is anywhere that King Jesus has authority. And so the kingdom can be right here. You can experience that right now. You can experience all the joy, peace, satisfaction in your life that you could ever want, but you're never going to find it chasing clout. You're only going to find it when you meet Jesus, when you become a servant of Christ. So I'm going to spend a minute. I want to pray for you guys. Pray that you would realize that you have influence, and realize that God wants to use you and use the influence that you've been given for his kingdom. Let me pray for you. Father, Lord, we love you. Lord, we thank you that you did in fact drink that cup, that you did suffer and die for our sins. Because of that, Lord, you've called us into something more. And God, you've called us with a purpose. And God, you have given us influence. And God, I pray that these students would realize that they have influence and you're calling them to use it for your kingdom, not for themselves. God, I pray that not one student in this room would get to the end of their life and think, is this it? But they would get to the end of their life and think, man, I have so much more to look forward to because I have a hope in Jesus, and one day I'm going to get to be with him. And Lord, I pray most of all that these students realize that they don't have to wait to have a relationship with you. They can have a relationship with you right now. They can experience the kingdom right now. I pray against comparison in the hearts of these students. I pray that they would realize what true greatness is. You modeled it. It's to be a servant. Love you, Jesus. Thank you. It's in his name we pray. Amen.